Welcome back to the United Front. It's been about 2 weeks, I think, since we were last. I think it's probably been more than 2 weeks since we last recorded. Thanksgiving, I moved, real busy, but we're back. And then Christmas is coming.
But we'll be pushing through Christmas.
Yeah, I don't even celebrate Christmas anyway. So,
happy holidays.
Yes, we have some stuff to talk about this week. A lot has happened that we're gonna have to breeze through. We're not even going to talk about Matt Gaetz dropping out because that's ancient news at this point. We're going to talk about the old news of the United Healthcare assassination that happened, obviously. We're going to talk about the Pod Save America interview with Kamala Harris staffers.
Which was a topic of conversation.
Was a big topic.
Among other podcasts.
Other podcasts, yeah. So we will talk about that.
Okay.
We'll touch on the Hassan interview they did as well. Bernie was on Jon Stewart's podcast.
Yeah.
So we're going to talk about that as well.
Just 2 days ago.
Yeah, so we got a couple topics. I'm nervous we're going to go over an hour.
I'll try to not talk.
Yeah,
I'll make no contributions.
If both of us make an effort to not speak, we'll be an hour and 20 minutes about.
Perfect.
So,
all right. Well, why don't you fire away?
Let's open with the big one, the United Health assassination.
Yeah.
Let's just hit the big one. Middle of Manhattan, about 7 a.m., a little before 7 a.m., just right in front of a hotel.
Pretty brazen.
Pretty brazen. I'm not seeing the whole video because it's out there. It kind of feels like a movie. I'm waiting for some director like Quentin Tarantino to come out like, we're just filming. It's not real. Because he's sitting and waiting. And he's perfectly hidden in a 4K camera is straight on both of them. And he like perfectly racks and clears his pistol 3 times. And the 3 live bullets that didn't fire off had defend, deny, depose on them. And then he just vanishes into Central Park.
Yeah. On an e-bike.
On a bicycle.
A bicycle.
Yeah. So it's kind of a movie.
Yeah.
If he had a cape and cowl, I would be like, yep. Sure enough, it's Batman just in New York now.
That kind of looked like Assassin's Creed with
Yeah,
what
it was kind of like I'm anticipating someone to come out. It's not real. He's not dead. It's a movie. Because it's crazy how it's all just.
According to the Manhunt, the reports.
Yeah.
I guess they feel like they're
making progress. Which
is interesting.
$2 billion budget of the NYPD, which is like funded better than like half the world's militaries.
Yeah.
If they don't find this guy,
yeah,
we're going to get a defund the police supported by everybody. Like you can't find him with that much money.
So it seems like the discourse around this is
united, you could say.
Well, you could say.
You could say united.
Yeah. People aren't revolted by this or disgusted by this. It's almost kind of this attitude online of, I'm talking about everywhere. Like from X to Reddit.
I've seen on Ben Shapiro put a video out about like crazy left or extreme revolutionary left supports killing of CEO. And like all the comments are like, dude, it's not just the left.
Yeah.
Like his people, like, bro, it's not just, it's all of us.
Yeah.
So the only people who aren't like, who care, I guess, right, are like politicians, and like big media figures. Because you have a brand you have to uphold.
Sure.
But outside of that, it's pretty across the board.
What that says to me is the environment is around healthcare. It's ripe for some sort of a dramatic change. The fact that a man can be, basically murdered in broad daylight.
Assassinated.
Because
everything tells us it was targeted and purposeful.
Clearly it was
there's no
there
way.
Was like another person standing by that he sort of waved away.
Yeah, like
I think it was she, it looked like, but I couldn't tell.
Just the one guy disappeared. He had etched onto the casings.
Right.
Like this was targeted.
Completely.
So I'm calling it assassination. I mean, I don't know what else.
Assassination.
Yeah.
Maybe like a hitman assassination. That's, I think the question at this point.
We don't know who, but.
So that's what I read into this. That's my take home. That's
a similar take home for me. Yeah.
Message as well. It's like, okay, wow. A man can be assassinated, murdered in broad daylight, and people are
in the middle of New York City.
Well, he denied care for like millions of people, and they made
32% of claims are denied by United.
I think that's number one in the industry.
A whole third of claims.
And I think there was something like $250 billion of, I think it was profit.
Yeah, not revenue, profit.
Which is
they're one of the biggest health insurance companies on the planet.
For sure.
Undeniably.
So let healthcare for all, Medicare for all, some sort of nationalized health insurance, let that be one of the foundations of a progressive tack within the Democratic Party going forward.
It needs to be the Democrat Party, but certainly any of the progressive trying to change the party. There's clearly enough frustration that like a dude gets assassinated. Everyone's like, well, all right.
Yeah.
Don't deny claims next time.
So I'm going to write that down.
Like,
yeah. Don't deny claims
but
next time.
Almost everyone's like, we don't care. I tweeted something and someone was like, it's bad to be celebrating this or whatever. And I said something, if you're willingly and knowingly signing off on the fact that you can deny claims, knowing it'll kill people, people are going to not care.
Sure.
Like they were calling out a lack of empathy. And I'm like, okay, well, let's spin it both ways. I mean, sure, he's a cog in the machine, but that's just the Nuremberg defense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, the guards at the concentration camps were just cogs in the machine. Like, no, I don't care.
Right.
He doesn't have to be the CEO of United.
Right.
You know what I mean?
He doesn't have to make $10, $20 million.
He doesn't have to do that. He can do something else with his life if he wishes. And so I said that. I was like, he knows what he's doing. He's well aware of what United does. And he's cool with it because he stays there.
Yeah.
So
it's
people aren't going to care.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'm like,
I think the only way it could have been more explicit that this was, he's almost like a representative, this assassin is almost like a representative of the masses. I think the only thing that he could have done to sort of, be even more like this, Robin Hood / John Wick mix guy is if he actually had a pitchfork with him.
Yeah, a pitchfork and a torch, and he was standing there. And
you know what I mean?
I've been on TikTok. I've seen so many edits of...
And a T-shirt that says "Eat the Rich" or something like that.
Yeah, that could have been... I've seen so many edits of how the assassin's rolling in New York, and it's just Batman edits. I've seen so many.
Yeah.
With hundreds of thousands of likes. I'm like...
So
I think it's bad that we're at a point where we have to resort to this kind of answer. That's not a good thing. I think that's bad. It speaks poorly on society as a whole.
Yes.
That, like, this is where we've gotten.
Yes.
But it's not the fault of people who are victims of the health insurance company.
Yes.
Right? So I'd love to be in a world where we don't have to do this and we can just talk to Congress and they would pass a bill. But we don't live in that world.
No, we don't.
So that's unfortunate, but so long as we live in that world, it's
kind of bound to happen.
Yeah.
It's almost like how a Republican might say, well, sometimes there's going to be a person with a gun who walks into a school and shoots, it's bound to happen.
Yeah.
Just because, the laws.
I would love to not live in that world.
Right. I would love to live in a world where we don't need guns.
Yeah.
I would love to live in a world where we all have healthcare.
Yep.
And
then this wouldn't happen.
We don't live in this world. No. We live in a capitalist healthcare. Oh, by the way,
a for-profit healthcare world. That's like, I'm going to say evil because there's not really another word to use.
I cannot think of another industry that I can say with confidence that we should never be profiting off of.
Yeah.
To profit off of illness
is
revolting.
Because it's like you could ask a person like, well, if your parent or your kid has like a disease, how much are you paying to save their life? It's like, well, everything. And it's like, cool. Well, I'm going to charge you everything just because I feel like it. Because some cases people will argue like, oh, for-profit systems make things more efficient or this or that. It proactively is making it less efficient and worse. So you can't even use that argument. You know what I mean? Like, when people try to defend stuff. So it's like, you can even try to use that argument. Because like, no, actually it's just the least efficient system we could possibly have.
Let's make a commitment now to devote a show at some point in the future.
To talk about,
right. It could be mine or yours or both, to talk about,
because you have insight, a lot of more insight than a lot of people.
Sure. I definitely have insight into this. I've got some things to say about it. So I think that we could make a whole show about healthcare.
I think we need to devote.
But I think we can confidently go ahead and kind of like etch this in the stone tablet.
Yeah, I'm happy to carve this one in.
Of the new Democratic Party platform that we're designing.
This reaction, if Democrats don't learn that people are clearly upset with the system, the fact that a man can get assassinated in broad daylight and everyone's cheering,
or at least shrugging, like,
no one's condemning it really.
Not much.
Not really any condemnation.
Not much.
Like 1 in 1,000 voices maybe gives a little pushback. It's like, clearly this is
right.
There's a message being sent.
It's time. I think. I mean, it's time.
If everyone's suffering that bad from it, and everyone's like, well, then maybe we should make the system where that's not the response.
Beautiful.
So there was a quote. Now I'm going to read into it because that makes me happy too.
There's a quote
from his wife, Brian Thompson's wife.
Oh, this is from the CEO's wife.
Says this, and it's made me laugh. So I got to stay composed.
It's going to make you laugh.
It's really funny. So this was a few days ago. USA Today posted it.
So this is like the day of the assassination.
I think it's the day of, yeah. So she had talked about that, like, he had been getting threats and like warnings, and I don't know how true that is for CEOs of health insurance companies. I'm gonna roll with it. It's probably fairly common. So Paulette Thompson's her name, tells the reporter that she had known of the threats, but she didn't know of whom, and quote says, "I don't know, a lack of coverage. I don't know the details." So I just know that there were some people who had been threatening him. So the fact that she throws in a lack of coverage joke, because that's not anything else. There's no way. That's not anything other than a lack of coverage joke.
It's like a lack of coverage of insurance. Like
poking
a person
at the fact that United denies claims and doesn't cover very well. I'm like,
that's weird.
So when your wife is happy to throw a dig at you and your body's still warm, adds to the pile of, it's not like this is just normal people who are upset. She's also like, I mean,
it's interesting.
I'm upset this happened, but like, I mean, she's also kind of throwing her hands in the air, like,
yeah.
So I think that quote also speaks volumes of like his closest person to him threw a joke out. So, I mean, I'm read into it what you will, but that screams at me that, like, clearly there's something wrong.
Well, she would have had the inside. She would have, must have had some,
she knew far more behind the scenes than the rest of us did.
Some understanding of what things were about. You'd assume, being his wife, that she would have some understanding.
Knows how bad it actually is.
Probably. She probably would have some idea of that.
Another thing I'm going to add on, posted yesterday. Ken Klippenstein, right?
Ken Klippenstein
posts, right? Mm-hmm. I guess United has a new CEO or acting CEO, Andrew Whitty, right? Addressed the company, and it was leaked. Someone just recorded. It was like a Zoom. Someone recorded on their phone. Quote, "We must guard against the pressures that exist for unsafe care and for unnecessary care." So this company has to defend themselves against patients and doctors saying we need to do this.
Okay.
Also says, quote, "There are very few people in the history of the U.S. healthcare industry who had a bigger positive effect on American healthcare than Brian, the CEO who was killed."
Okay.
So that's an interesting take.
Okay.
"The healthcare system needs a company like United Health Group, and it needs people like Brian within it."
Okay.
So this just happened. Virtually the entire planet's like throwing their hands in the air, and they're like, we're going to make it worse, actually. We're going to double down. We didn't do it bad enough. Watch how we get to 50% denied claims, and then we're helping.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
That's their message.
Is this some sort of a spin agency or something? What are they?
Ken Klippenstein?
Yeah.
He's just a guy on
he's just
Twitter.
A guy.
He's just a dude who like reports.
Just a guy.
Yeah, just kind of a.
This is his comment.
No, those were quotes from the CEO.
Okay, got it. Jeez.
So
what a crazy system. It's
man just gets killed.
So
you replace the guy who got assassinated, and you go, actually, we're gonna make it worse. Then we're helping.
Wow.
So that's their assessment.
Okay. So we see where we stand.
We don't really the picture of the guy that they found in the Starbucks or whatever it was that I thought I heard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it's the same guy. I don't think so. Unless he changed his jacket. That picture that's been going around of like the shooter,
like a guy, like smiling
with a hoodie, smiling. I don't think it's him. I think the nose structure is wrong, slightly different. I think the shooter had a slightly skinnier kind of bridge.
Didn't he have a mask on?
Yeah, but you can see it goes to here. The mask goes to here.
Okay.
It's a different colored backpack he's wearing.
Okay.
And the jacket's a little bit different.
Okay, so maybe not even him.
I don't think it's him. A lot of people were kind of like, that's a stretch.
That's interesting. All right.
So
we'll have to keep an eye on this. Obviously, this will be a big story. So
yeah, it'll be going on. So
people will be keeping an eye on it.
But yeah, I wanted to touch that first and point out just like how people don't really care a whole lot. And it's if a lot of people are like, well, where's your empathy? And it's like, well, where's theirs?
Right.
Like the shooter has way less blood on his hands than United does.
Yeah.
Like in an objective, measurable sense.
Yes.
So people are like, well, where's their empathy?
Yes.
So I don't blame them. I don't blame them at all. So I'm sure there's horror stories that I don't even know about yet.
I can understand that people at large could feel the way that they feel about this.
I can't blame a single person for responding the way.
I can understand it.
I can't really blame them. So another thing that we mentioned we were going to talk about was the Pod Save America podcast with Kamala Harris's top staff. So
it was interesting to see them. You know, I always wondered
who's in charge.
Who are the people?
Yeah, so we saw them.
Yeah, we really did.
I would say very bold and very dumb of them to go on there.
Really?
Yeah, I think
that's your take on that. Huh?
I think
I mean, you knew it would be criticized or scrutinized.
I think it like once proves again they're like complete inability to message and understanding of any normal person.
Yeah,
like you think you would go on there and it would go well.
Yeah,
like at all. Not even like you'd be criticized, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Like straight condemnation.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't think that was going to happen because even the Pod Save guys were like, we got a lot of criticism and I don't know about that. And they're talking with Hassan.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, what do you mean you don't know about that? How could you not fathom the response? Like
to that
podcast. It goes to show their the delusion around it of like you thought their answers were okay or not worthy of the level of hate that it got.
Yeah.
So I watched it and I felt pretty doomer afterwards.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was like, God, this is why.
Okay, yeah.
Like
I get it.
It doubled down of like, I don't know if Kamala was the best candidate we could have had, but it was like, oh, it wouldn't have mattered. These are the people who muzzled Tim Walz. The reason we didn't get Tim Walz is these people.
Okay, so that's my question though, right? It is, you know, this idea that, I mean, I think that's as good of an example as any out there because Tim Walz was clearly muzzled.
100%.
He was, or if he wasn't muzzled, then he
was very heavily pressured.
Right. Or he felt some sort of a pressure that he interpreted, you know, to say, okay, I need to dial everything back and dial it all down. But so where would that instruction have come from? Would it have come from a campaign team like this? Would it have come from Kamala herself? Would it have come from some big donors?
Well, I have some answers for you.
You've got some research on...
Yeah, so I did a little research because I needed to know who these people were because I hate them. But I needed to know who I was hating. Okay? So there are three main people. There's four people, and there's one guy.
Little sarcasm on there.
I don't know about that.
Hate's a strong word.
Well, that's the feel I have.
Oh, all right. So
I mean, these are people who handed us Trump.
So you're
my
extraordinarily
antagonism,
disappointed.
I feel for Trump, if the people who gave us Trump,
So
like if they had ran like the perfect campaign and everyone's like, we actually don't know what you could have done there. If they did the whole thing, working class thing, populism thing, and still lost, I'm like, I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know what else to do.
Got it.
Right.
It seemed like they were trying to congratulate themselves a little bit on, look, we were way down when it started. She was unpopular when it started. We only had 106 days or, whatever it was. And
they were all self-sucking for sure.
We feel good that we got it to a 1.5 difference. And it's like, okay, I can kind of understand that a little bit. But at the same time,
I think that they also made vote to Trump.
Yeah, but I think that they made it a point to kind of to say that we just didn't have enough time to do everything that we wanted to do. I get it.
Yeah.
So
they were trying to the message I got is they were trying to defend themselves and blame the voters for not listening. I got that a ton. Yeah. Like I saw things of like, well, they were saying like, what's his name was saying that, Dan sat down and he was saying like, oh, you guys were getting criticized for not doing media. And they're like, we did a ton of media. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, well, but
no, you didn't.
She went on Fox News, right? That was one
cool.
of the...
She went on Fox once for a little bit.
Right.
Y'all didn't do enough stuff. Mm-hmm. So, like that kind of thing. Like they just like, no, we did stuff. People just didn't listen and watch it because they'd cry about the views and stuff. I'm like, that's your fault. Mm. Y'all get paid so much money and you get mad at us for you fucking up. Yeah. What does that make any sense? Yeah. Right? So they us a bunch of stuff, but let's talk about who these people are. Okay. First. So Quentin Fulks was the black guy on there. Mm-hmm. He's far more removed from the problem. Right? Based on the stuff he was saying, based on his personal background. So I left him out of the critique. Okay. I don't think he's great, but he's a saint. Yeah. He is Jesus Christ of Nazareth in this room in comparison. Okay. Okay. So we're going to talk about this. So let's go one by one. Jen O'Malley Dillon. Okay.
She's at the campaign chair, I believe, right?
Yes. Campaign chair.
So she's like the head of the campaign.
Yeah, she's kind of the boss, if you will.
The boss of the campaign.
Kind of the boss of the will. So she has been in politics for a while, obviously. Yes. She held the same position in Biden's campaign. So that's your first red flag. Okay. Biden himself was a nightmare. That campaign was also a nightmare when he was running it. It was a disaster.
Before he dropped out.
Yeah. Biden's his own problem. Mm-hmm. That campaign wasn't doing anything positive to help. Mm-hmm. Red flag 1. She's also helped manage Beto O'Rourke's campaign in 2019.
Oh, interesting.
Which is interesting. Mm-hmm. So obviously she's obscenely rich.
Was she the campaign head for Biden in 2020, by the way? If you don't know, it's okay. I was wondering if that was a carryover, like if she just stayed the campaign head as it went along.
Yes, she managed the 2020 campaign.
And so she won 2020.
And then she served as deputy chief of staff for the first 3 years.
Oh, okay.
And then came back to do his campaign again and then switched to Kamala. Okay.
Yeah, she's definitely right on the inside then.
Yeah. So she worked for a bunch of different campaigns. She helped Obama and stuff like that, right? Tim Kaine as well. Stuff with there, right? Mm. She was hired as the executive director of the DNC under Tim Kaine. So she's been in the mess the muck for 2 decades, as long as I've been alive. Bit of a problem, though, with her. She isn't only into politics, if you might believe it.
Oh, boy, lay it on me.
So she also basically sits in a paid position and advises the Gates Venture, which is Bill Gates' venture capitalist firm or group or whatever, and the Chan Zuckerberg group, which by the name, I'm going to let you guess who's in charge of that one. Okay. She also works as a paid advisor for General Electric and Lyft.
Wow. Interesting.
Paid advisor. She's paid big bucks from them. So she works for two massive companies, General Electric being a titanic company.
Yes.
They do basically everything.
Yeah.
They touch everything.
They're huge.
So she works for two private venture capitalist firms, gets paid by them, and then works for General Electric and Lyft and gets paid by them. So she's reeling in, at worst, several $100,000 a year.
Plus
for them.
chief of staff.
For them.
Right. That's
where her money comes from.
That's just the private.
That's her allegiance, right?
Money.
And then she works for them. That's where her money comes from.
Okay.
So they pay her.
Mm-hmm.
That's where all her big bucks comes from, right? So that's that's bad.
So
she's an advisor and is paid by massive companies. What do you think they're paying her to do?
So yeah,
get Joe Biden elected?
Your assertion is that she brings some sort of ulterior motive into.
Of course.
But I would think it would be. I would think her motive would be for her guy or girl to win. And
maybe, but what does General Electric and Lyft and Bill Gates and Mark Zuckerberg want?
Probably
lower taxes.
A seat
they're a company.
A seat at the table.
And then what do they want? To
when
make
they're there,
more money. Let's call it what it is. They're businesses.
Yep.
That's the only point.
Yep.
Now, however that works out for them specifically,
taxes,
whatever.
Subsidy,
I'm sure it's different.
Okay.
But they just want money. That's their business, right?
Sure.
That's a big red flag, one, for me. She's not just like a political science major or a sociology major or whatever, right? That just has been in politics.
Mm-hmm.
Was like a organizer or a leader of some kind of group or whatever, and then just moved up the ranks.
Yeah.
That's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't make a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
She works for private companies.
I understand.
And then sneaks into an administration. So it makes sense that she's aggressively opposed to Bernie and all his stuff, populism and all that stuff. Makes a ton of sense.
Got it.
She would have advised Biden and Harris to abandon all of that.
I think that probably would be the take-home message in our context.
She would have advised Kamala to abandon all of that and Tim Walz to never talk about it.
Stay away from the populist.
She would have been one of them.
Okay.
Considering her position in the campaign.
All right. I buy that. I'll go with you on that one. Yeah. I was wondering where you were going because, we all know about the revolving door in Washington
But now we have
every kind of example.
But now we have dum-dums that went on a podcast.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's kind of... I mean, this stuff happens in plain sight. You can go read
all the time
a Wikipedia page and see, wow, this person worked for the FDA, then they went and worked for a big ag company, and then went back and worked for the FDA again. It's like, or
oh my God, she was the one that said Biden was probably in better health than most of us.
Okay,
so
whatever.
She doesn't have interest in winning. She has interest in helping who pays her.
I mean,
her concern isn't the people. That's plainly obvious.
Okay.
Her concern isn't the people.
Now I think you're hitting on the key
She's just
point.
working for the crust, the top crust. That's who she works for.
Okay.
So she's going to respond for them.
Got it.
Another person, David Plouffe, I think. Is that pronounce it?
Sure. I liked him. He might
have been the worst.
Really? He might be the worst.
Maybe second worst.
I mean, I know he's been plugged in. I think he was in with Obama.
Yeah, he was Obama's campaign manager.
Okay.
And business strategists should never be on your Wikipedia page. If you are, that's bad.
Interesting. He seems,
in my personal opinion, as a man of the people,
yeah.
If your Wikipedia page says business strategist, I'm reading a villain's Wikipedia page. Anyway, so he worked for Obama, and then has been a long-time Democratic Party campaign consultant. I'm gonna say it. Wow, the Democrats are dog shit at running a campaign.
Yeah.
And he's a part of that group. So he gets my ire. I don't know if he's the worst of them.
I mean, he won 3 out of 5.
Obama won 2 of those.
Right.
He didn't win anything.
Okay. But
Barack Obama won those 2.
Yeah, but you know what they're going to claim.
Sure. I mean, he also helped with Hillary probably.
I'm sure.
And that went really well.
Yeah, that went sideways.
And Kamala also really went well. So, I'm going to put it like that. So this man... Interestingly, he works for Uber.
What's with this Uber and Lyft? I mean, you got,
he became the senior vice president of policy and strategy for Uber.
Okay.
So he is like not just an advisor. He's in with them.
Okay.
He committed a couple crimes about getting in Chicago and trying to get rid of policy to make Uber easier to do in Chicago.
They committed some crimes, like
so he was
convicted.
So you're supposed to. Well, he's rich, so no. But you're supposed to declare yourself a advisor and stuff like that if you're working for a company and you're speaking to a politician. You're supposed to declare that. And he didn't. He was just going as a person. But everything he was doing was all as a policy advisor for a company in Chicago. So corruption.
Right.
Right? I'm sure there's plenty more, but I can point to that. You know what I'm saying? So he worked with Obama, and Obama won that. He didn't win anything. He don't get any credit. In my book.
Okay.
All
right.
So, interestingly, he also worked for the Chan Zuckerberg initiative.
Okay.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I don't know much about that initiative, but I mean,
it's interesting that two of the top dogs are getting paid by the same people. That's interesting.
Yep.
It's just a note.
Paid by Facebook.
The dumbest thing that he said, which made my blood boil. So he's talking about getting voters. It's really hard to win swing states. I don't care. How much do you get paid? What's your only job? I don't want to hear any complaints. I can complain about how it's hard to win in Pennsylvania. You can complain about how hard it's win in Pennsylvania. He can't.
Right.
You're not allowed to.
Right.
Like that's like if Trump comes out and is like, it's hard to be president. I don't know. Like, dude, I don't care. You ran as
yeah.
You signed up for this.
Right.
Figure it out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You get all the power. You get to figure it out now. Right. So he's talking about winning swing states, and he's like, most of the population is moderates. And I'm like, no. That's not how that works. And the way he was talking about it is he's under the assumption that if you're a moderate, it's black and white. Like if you're a Democrat, you just support Democrats. You just do. And if you're a Republican, you just support Republicans. You just do, like inherently. And if you're a moderate, you just believe half Democrat things and half Republican things.
Okay.
Like it's super spreadsheety, workshopped opinion.
Yep.
Didn't say a thing about people who don't vote, which is still like half the country.
Okay.
Right? It's been going up a little bit, but it's still a ton of people. Didn't acknowledge them. Those who've been disenfranchised and don't vote. Which you would think maybe half the country who doesn't vote is, I don't know, a pool of half the people who can vote. I don't know. That's interesting. Doesn't even talk about them. They don't exist to him. And he says we need to aggressively like target moderates by being moderate. I'm like, how'd that work out? You did, speak highly of how you were campaigning with Liz Cheney and other Republicans. I don't really notice you walking around with AOC and the likes of her.
Sure.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
You can blame Bernie for not being in the party.
No,
sure, he's an independent.
I mean, they tack middle.
AOC's a Democrat.
I know. Yep.
So I was like, if you want to think that, you did just lose. In 2020, Biden was on the left of Kamala. So, I'm not a genius and been doing this for a long time, but I could just point to how you're wrong. So that drove me insane. Okay. Stephanie Cutter, probably the second worst, right? Also, just how she talks is so like consultant HR.
Was that the lady sitting at the end of the table? I don't remember. Maybe.
Here.
That's okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yes, she was at the end of the table. The blonde lady without the glasses.
Okay.
At the end of the table. Stephanie Cutter, okay? Drove me insane because I just don't like how she sounds.
Okay.
It just sounds irritating, right? But she was also part of Biden and everything. So she was also an Obama advisor. Okay. This one was interesting. This one I took as a big ding. She worked in the Clinton administration as the communications director for him.
Bill Clinton.
Bill Clinton.
Oh, wow.
Billiam Clinton.
Wow. So she's been around. For a while.
Yeah. Again, I think
that's the 90s.
I think it spoils her brain the same way it spoiled the other two, is that both of them were good at speaking and won. And they're like, oh, I'm good at this. No. Obama and Bill Clinton are good speakers.
Yeah.
You just happen to be there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I could be there and I wouldn't have changed anything. They still would have won.
Obama and Bill Clinton were authentic.
Yep. Well, a little more authentic.
more authentic than Kamala.
Others. Yes. Interestingly, she works for General Electric.
What the heck?
Interesting. It's just that there's two people working for General Electric, people working for... I don't know.
Okay. Well, I mean, okay. So they have jobs.
Not to be a conspiracy guy.
While they're not campaigning. I mean, you'd think they would be working.
They're working there while they're campaigning.
Man, okay.
They're actively getting paid by these companies.
Okay.
And so if you don't want to get fired...
If I run a campaign...
I'll put it this. Bernie talks about big money in politics.
Yes, a lot.
I mean, this is it.
Okay.
This is it. It's not just them donating to campaigns. It's them flooding the party with all of their paid people.
Okay.
That's also how you do it. Lobbyists.
Yeah, sure. Yep. Okay. I see that.
An arm of the problem. I think a big arm.
Okay.
Because there's no attachment to reality. I can tell for a fact they haven't spoken to someone who makes as much money as I do. And I don't know how long. Since the 90s, early 90s, I would say.
That's a poor person for anybody that doesn't know.
And poor. Above poverty, but not super far above it.
Right.
Not super high above that line.
Paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, paycheck to paycheck. Haven't spoken to someone like me in I don't know how long. Way longer than I've been alive.
So
23. Longer than I've been alive. I
have a point about that. Maybe that I guess I kind of noticed this as I was watching them kind of speak, you know. It seemed like almost the first half that hour and a half that they were on, they were talking so much about the data. Like, you know, the data said we should be doing this, and then the data said we need to talk more about this, and this state more this, and the data and the data and the data.
Yeah, it was like, what do people feel? People think.
Right. So, like, it raised a question in my mind, and I don't know the answer to this question. And I'm not asking you because I don't think that either of us know the answer to the question. I can kind of assume what I think or what I think the answer is.
Educated guess, yeah.
You know, like, it's like I think these people who are running the campaigns at the top level of the Democratic Party are very much unplugged from what is going on the ground inside a person's life and home. And
have to. There's no, based on the things that they were saying, I'm like, I guess it's possible. I mean, theoretically,
yeah,
anything's possible. I'll put every dollar that they have no clue.
Yeah. And I just
they get driven around, private flight. They don't know.
Right. It feels like they rely too much. Here we go. Here's the sentence that I wanted to say is that the Democratic campaign elites, if you will, relies too much on the data and not near enough on a conversation with a real human being in their home at their work.
Agreed. I would argue that the deep state that Republicans talk about, this is the deep state. Not whatever the hell they're talking about.
George Soros.
Yeah, not all that stuff that they're talking about. Like, oh, the $15 that went to Colombia so they can buy coffee. Like, you know, they're talking about that on Doge or whatever. Stuff. That's not the deep state.
Yeah.
This is the deep state. Republicans have the exact same thing on their side.
Sure.
They're just not dumb enough to go on camera.
Well, you know, billionaires on both sides.
Of course, it's a problem everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just, this is the deep state. I don't think I think Republicans are probably right about the deep state in some like horrible connection that removes the government from the people. Except it's not what they think it is. It's not the EPA making sure you don't dump nuclear waste into a river.
Yeah.
It's not them. Right?
Sure.
It's these people. And
right.
However many thousands of them there are.
Sure. Yeah.
Bernie talks about it all the time. It's like you're more likely to see a lobbyist in Congress than a congressperson.
Bernie talks about Congress people as if they're employees of
virtually
corporations.
At this point.
Yeah.
If they threaten to not fund your campaign, you want to be in power.
You're going to get
going to do whatever they say.
Yep. You're going to get $100 million poured against you in your next.
Yeah.
You know.
So I think this is the deep state.
Okay. I'm okay with
what they think is the deep state.
They
Republicans.
What Republicans think is the deep state is
not. I mean, I'm sure it's not great.
Like,
I'm not blaming them. Probably inefficient and corrupt.
Some sort of a mystery
amorphous, administrative state. No.
Yeah.
This is the deep state. The military industrial complex being the most famous example.
Okay.
If the Pentagon is failing audits all the time, that's the deep state. Money going in, disappearing.
Got it.
That money's going somewhere.
Right.
They didn't just burn it. Who's getting it? That's the deep state.
Okay.
That's my assessment.
Okay.
If you're going to say a deep state.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have anybody else to point at.
If you're going to say the institution.
Okay.
This is the institution.
I didn't know we were going to be discussing the deep state here today.
That's my thought.
But I'm okay to point in the direction of people like this. I'm not saying that the 4 people at the table are the 4 deep state people.
I don't think they're the worst, or probably not the worst at all. The fact that they can speak on camera and not, you know what I mean? There's worse people. For sure. There's worse people.
I wonder if they are even aware, because it seems like they're smart people and it seems like they're actually empathetic human beings.
Well,
seems like, okay, it seems like, but it also, it seems like, obviously they're smart and they make a lot of money. And so they're also unplugged from a lot of people, but it seems like there's empathy there. But of course, it could be a total misread on my part.
Yeah.
But, they're not, I'm sure that's not the worst of the deep state. But like, I wonder if they are aware that people like us or all the Republicans or,
everybody,
the regular schmoes like us, if we sort of see them as...
are they aware of people's perception of them? I forgot who said this. I don't know who it was. Someone said that, like, I don't even know if they know what they're doing
and not doing.
Like they might, in all honesty, be sitting there and believe every word they're saying.
Right.
Like they are so far gone. They don't even know how bad it is. Like, this is not good. People aren't inspired to vote for stuff like this.
Right.
Yep. And I don't know if they even know. Like, is it like the malice or incompetence thing? Like, whatever that rule, I forget what it's called, that law, but that thing. Like, are they just...
Don't attribute to malice that which you can attribute to incompetence.
Yes.
So
it's like,
I think it's almost like ignorance.
Yeah, like...
Maybe it's just ignorance.
I think I've learned in politics that to assume that most people are incredibly incompetent and not that smart.
Yeah.
Right? And I think this is another group of people. It's like, they're smart people. I mean, they've been to school and stuff, but like, there's nothing wise about their approach. Right? And so I don't know if they know. That's a good point. I don't know if they know. I'm not sure. Another thing I saw.
Yes.
And I didn't mention this at the top.
Oh, okay.
I want to touch on it.
Yeah, let's do that.
So I was watching The Bulwark, and they often upset me.
Really?
Right? Yeah, I think because they're all former Republicans, now turned not because of Trump, but they haven't left all of the stuff that they believed behind, really.
Interesting.
So it's kind of irritating a lot. Not all the time.
Okay.
The main guy, he's kind of all right, right? I forget the lady's name on there. She drives me nuts.
Is that one that I sent you?
Oh, let me see.
Yeah.
I'm like 99% sure.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, her. She drives me crazy a lot of the time. She's one of the people who's screaming from the mountaintops, we got to be moderate. I'm like, no, we did be moderate.
Yeah.
What are you looking at? Anyway. So they talked to the chair of the Democrat Party in Wisconsin.
Okay.
Swing state. This guy is... Anyway, Ben Williker's his name. Probably people know who that is. Heard of the name. I'll look him up real quick. So he's the chair of the Democrat Party in Wisconsin since 2019. And he had some interesting things to say. So another thing that drives me nuts. It's a complete disconnect from what people think. An absolute disconnect
from what voters think.
Yeah, voters think and what average Americans think.
Okay.
He was saying we talked plenty about the economy. I'm like, I mean,
like the opportunity economy.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Okay.
Or a $6,000 child tax credit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I guess like technically, you did.
Yeah.
But you did. But none of it was effective. So if had you said nothing, you would have achieved the same outcome.
Yeah, probably.
So completely useless and meaningless talk and not speaking probably achieves the same outcome. And so he's like, we did talk about the economy. I'm like, in like a really arrogant, we did that and they just didn't listen to us. Same thing those advisors did. And I'm like, God, what are you like?
So they're not actually speaking to people's fears and uncertainties.
I think people like this sit in a room with other powerful people
and a pile of data
and talk to each other. And that's the only communication of politics they ever have.
That's the feeling. See, but I don't know if that's true.
Bernie takes the train. There's pictures of him in the subway in DC.
Sure.
He talks to people far more than everyone else, at least.
It sure seems like it.
AOC is constantly talking to her. She's always Instagram. Always getting feedback.
She's always on the ground in her district.
Probably more than almost anybody.
I don't know if it's more than anybody, but she seems to do it a lot.
And it reflects.
Yeah, you can tell.
In everything she does. Clearly, she speaks to normal people.
Yeah.
She's very grounded.
And clearly she fights for her people.
Yeah, she's very grounded.
Yeah.
And knows what her district cares about. This guy's no idea. No idea what Wisconsin wants. I just really don't. Like, it's the thing that I think I told you last time of like, it's not acting authentic. Jon Stewart said this. You don't act authentic or do that. You just be you.
Yeah.
Just be yourself.
Yeah.
That's authentic.
If you're acting, then you're not.
The strategy isn't authenticity. It's just be authentic.
Yeah.
That's not a strategy.
Yeah.
Right?
Just be yourself.
He was talking about it. The advisors were talking about it. PodSave's always talking about it. They're like, okay, what's the policy we need to take here? And what do we need to do? No. That's already disconnected. You've already lost everybody. I mean, the top people, maybe that's how they think. But that's not a normal person thinks or acts. And it's so clear. He's running for the chair of the DNC. So I'm not particularly excited. He did say one thing that I was like, all right. And the guy who was interviewing him, who was like one of the publishers of the Bulwark, like actively pushed against this, which I thought was psychotic, that he should be taken from his position. Ben Wilker says we need to be having a 24/7, 365 campaign.
Okay.
Republicans are campaigning every hour of the day.
Sure.
Every year.
Yeah.
And it works.
Yeah. They're on the attack all the time.
He said the same thing.
Yeah.
And Bulwark guy's like, well, you have 50 states and different cities, and you have to change your messaging and change your approach. Same problem. Like, dude, no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. It's not, I get it. Sure. Yeah. Look, I mean,
don't change what you think and believe and feel per state or city, because then people know you don't believe anything.
Right. Because then you're not being
why
authentic.
am I going to vote for you if you believe nothing?
If you're going to tell me what you think I want to hear in Arizona, but if you're up in Pennsylvania, you're going to tell me something else that you think I want to hear.
Yeah. I want you to tell me what's in here.
Just be you.
And it needs to be good enough to get me in Arizona and him in Pennsylvania to all both vote for you.
Right.
That's the problem.
If there was a grander message that transcended swing states.
If you just believed something.
Right.
Just believe something.
Right.
I guess, you know what I mean?
I don't feel like Trump did anything that seemed like it was meaningfully targeted towards to some specific state. He talked about immigration. If he was all the way up north and all the way down
he's
on
in
the
Montana.
border.
They've never even seen a Hispanic person.
Right.
And he's screaming about illegal immigrants.
Yeah.
Taking their jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And so he doesn't cater himself. He doesn't like Republicans never have the conversation. Do we need to change our approach and strategy in this state versus this state? They don't do that.
I mean,
I'm willing.
If they do it, it doesn't seem like much.
Yeah, if they do it, it doesn't do a whole lot. So, problem.
Yeah,
just believe something. If people believe that you believe something, that can inspire somebody. Seeing that you're just like a chameleon for the sake of being a chameleon. Like, I'm just changing my things that I believe and say just to buy votes. That's real obvious to people now, particularly with the 24-hour coverage and how much social media is playing into this one. It was obvious that Kamala was constantly just saying whatever she had to.
So can I then maybe pose a question now at this point is when do we as Dems rethink the party platform so it's a platform that we can all believe in? To your point, we need to believe in it if we are going to fight for the workers, for the middle class, for, I mean, anybody struggling, if we're going to be inclusive, if we're going to be all of these things. When are we going to design a new platform that reflects that so I can say I believe in my platform?
Yeah.
Because I struggled at the Democratic meeting the other day.
Yeah.
Like, what exactly do we stand for as Dems now, currently in 2024, almost 2025? What
I think was hilarious. They were doing the same thing that everyone else was doing. Some people weren't. Some people, coincidentally, I think the ones who were a little bit more in charge or had a little more connection to the ones in charge were like in the same theorizing. What do people want to hear? What do we need to be our approach? And I and you and a couple others were like, no, we just need to decide what we think and they'll follow.
Yeah.
Like,
we need to sell our vision.
Yeah. Yes. And I think it even gets down to the local level because I felt that from a couple people in there.
We can do that at the local level. You can sell that at any level.
I think the problem gets even down to the local level.
Yeah.
It's not just like the DNC, the National Party.
Okay, so the problem
it can get all the way down
that thinking,
that approach of like, I'm going to buy votes and have a policy for 0.2% of the population, then they'll vote for me and I can ignore them forever. And then I'll have a policy for 15 million people here and then I can ignore them forever. And then a small couple suburbs in Wisconsin will vote for me because this policy, and I ignore them forever. That's you can't, no.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
Okay.
So, and I think that's a good segue.
Yeah.
To the Bernie Jon Stewart podcast.
I'd love to talk about that one.
Which was great. I think they're very funny together.
Yeah.
They're a pretty cute couple. Right? I thought it was good. So Bernie said something that made me panic and write it down. It was the first note I took. I was like, oh, God.
Wow.
Pen.
I mean, is this something new that he said that we haven't heard him say before? Because he's like Trump. He's like on repeat.
I'm sure he said it several thousand times in the past week. Right? It's just the first time that way he worded it.
And it kind of resonated in the moment for
you. Really good.
All right, let's hear it. What did he say? That
if democracy isn't working, he's like, if I'm a voter and I say this, if democracy isn't working for me and only the rich, why should I bother to participate? And I was like,
so you're talking about...
So isn't that genius?
Disenfranchisement specifically.
John had asked him about disenfranchised voters who didn't vote or turn out for Democrats. It was kind of the prompt, and Bernie had gotten to that. And I was like, so that's really good. That was put very well.
Okay, yeah.
Because I think people are beginning to...
It's true.
I think I was talking with people last night that like people are starting to feel like the system isn't working for them, and they can start to feel who it is working for. That's the difference.
Yeah.
Whereas before they might have just kind of felt very vaguely like, I don't know if it's working.
Yeah.
I think it's now clear that it's obviously not working.
Yep.
And I think they're also getting a sense of who it's working for.
Yes. I think it's harder for billionaires to hide now.
It's way harder
nowadays.
And they're also I'm going to say it, a lot of them don't seem to be that bright. And they're obsessed with getting attention. Some of them are.
Yeah. Well,
Elon, obviously.
Yeah,
but a lot of them are obsessed with attention. They're like, dude, this is not helping your cause.
Yeah.
If you had any brain cells, you would never talk. You would just disappear.
It's Jon Stewart though.
He
mentions
kind of the thing of like, there's probably trillionaires and we don't even know who they are.
Putin.
Putin might be a trillionaire.
The royals in the UK.
Yeah.
Maybe
Saudi.
the Vatican.
Saudi.
Maybe Saudis.
Yeah.
Sure.
But that was a really good point that Bernie put. And I think people are starting to feel it a little bit more. Like you said, billionaires can't hide. And if they're so like, oh, it doesn't work for me, then I'm not even going to bother. Just wasting my time. Another thing was said that was a really good point that I think Jon Stewart said, that democracy is an analog system. It is designed that way. It always represents who's in charge, who is turning the wheels, the cogs of democracy. It always responds, right?
Of course.
It's not a failure of democracy or representative government. It's working perfectly right now.
Yeah. I mean, the people in charge are getting done what they want.
The ones who are affecting the system the most are the richest people and companies and things of that nature. And it's responding to them constantly. So the system works perfect, near perfect.
Yeah.
What it's designed to do, it's doing, which is respond to who it's supposed to represent by who put them there. And when you give a candidate $30 million, that's who they're going to listen to.
Right. Not the people.
Nope.
Right.
So that was another thing I think of people who are like, democracy doesn't work, or kind of the hate for democracy or whatever. I'm like, I don't think it's the right approach. I think because it works.
Yeah.
But it's not like an inherently representative of the 99%.
I think that was,
you know what I mean?
Straight
just whoever can get their hands on it is who's going to feel the benefit.
Sure.
It's just really, really, really hard to fight against several $1 trillion.
It just,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. I mean, but like we've had a government, a Democrat, a democracy that hasn't served the people since, Reagan. I mean, obviously there's been bits and pieces of things that have happened.
Really serving the people, like post Reagan, it's just kind of been a nightmare.
Right. It's really gone the wrong direction. And then when
couple victories, but not like it really works for us.
Well, I think that's just, the old, get money out of politics, idea, which, that's been around for a long time. How do you do that? How do you get money out of, how do you
get it once it's in there? How do you get it out once it's in?
Yeah.
That's a challenge.
I mean, once that's the system, how do you change
How do you
the
make
system?
them vote for that?
I mean, I think that you need I think there's only one way that some sort of massive change like that could ever really happen. And that would be something equivalent to the Depression. A quarter of the nation out of work, people who used to have a job and a home are homeless and waiting, in lines for food, and that kind of thing. But I'm not talking about the relatively few homeless that we have now. And it's not few, it's over 600,000 people, right? But it's
in comparison to 330 million.
Right. But if you're talking about 25 million people are waiting in line at a food bank all around, the country. That's all the time.
A lot of people.
Right. So I feel like that's what it takes, but then
that's what it took last time.
But it also but it also took a voice and an idea.
Yeah, I think FDR believed something.
That was right. That inspired everyone to say, look, here's the problem. I point at the problem. This is the problem. This is what we're going to do to fix it. And the people will say, okay, we will vote for you. And he got it done, though. He delivered.
Yep. I mean, it goes back to his quote of never before in history have so much hate been targeted at one man, and I welcome their hatred. Goes back to his quote again. Another thing someone pointed out, I don't remember who this was, that FDR being the most successful Democrat ever. And also the most successful electoral president outside of Washington.
Washington, yeah.
That didn't really count. When people could vote.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
When you knew all 15 people who could vote in the U.S. in the beginning.
Sure.
Kind of easy to court those votes, right? So he won 98% of the electoral votes.
Yeah.
In 36.
Yeah. Insane.
Yeah. Insane. So someone said something do you think FDR was, this is what it was. Hassan was on the Pod Save America, and he said that Hassan wishes that multiple different financial organizations, whatever they are, right, went after Joe Manchin because of his obvious and blatant corruption. Stupid obvious. And then whoever was across from him, I don't remember, was you want to politicize the administrative state. I'm like, dude, they already are. They've always been. They've never not been.
Right.
It's just, do you have the balls to use them? Of course, they've always been.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so then the thought was like, do you think FDR was like a nice guy behind the scenes? You think that's how he got Congress whipped up like that to listen to him? Because it wasn't
unlikely.
It wasn't just that the people loved him. That's a big part, right? But a politician can say whatever they need to get elected, and then do whatever else in Congress. Do you think that he would just like senators were threatening not to vote for him, and he wouldn't go down there and speak to them? And by speak, I mean threaten heavily. You think he didn't play that game?
Right.
Of course he did.
Right.
He had to. There's no way he passes all the shit he did without going in there.
Yeah.
Like, no, we're delivering.
Yep. He had to muscle.
Of course he did.
That. Sure.
LBJ did.
LBJ.
Sure. Quite famously.
Yep.
Didn't know what personal space was.
Sure.
And was 6'4".
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
And so kind of the thing, because Hassan was talking about like how Biden was like going to Republicans and asking them what they want to do when he had Congress. Like, you don't have to ask them. You know what I mean? And then like kowtowing to like the most conservative Democrats and like giving them all the concessions and like mangling every bill and dissembling it. Like, no, Biden needs to be pulling senators into the Oval Office and like, you're gonna vote for the bill.
Because does that work in the modern age? I wonder.
For sure.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I wonder.
I think it works better now than it could then. Because now you can like, I think back in FDR's time, it would be connections FDR had would have been the only weapon he had. Like, I know everything about you. You're going to vote for what I want you to vote for. Now,
blackmail,
which it has to be.
Yeah.
It's politics. It's part of the game, right? It's just we don't call it blackmail because it's politics. Biden pulls in senators or whoever he needs to pull in. Like, no, you're going to vote for the bill. No, you're going to. I'm not asking, I'm telling you. And they're like, no. Then you can immediately point out like all their corruption. Like, well, we know about everything you have. One, you've committed several crimes we know about. Two, I could very easily replace you. I'm the president. I have a big say in that. I'm pretty popular in the Democrats. Three, I'll just go to the press room.
Right. Bully pulpit.
Joe Manchin doesn't want to vote for you to have health care and raise minimum wage. Right. I spoke to him earlier, and he doesn't know if he wants to vote for it. Good luck.
Right.
Good luck.
Yeah. You don't see that kind of thing.
The brass anymore.
Yeah.
Well, you do see it.
Well, Trump. Yeah.
And what happens? He doesn't do very well at passing stuff, but because I think the Republicans are way worse in nature as a party and kind of infighting. But the fact that he bullies them in line is rather impressive.
True. It is true. Well, he's the master narcissist.
I think a Democrat can do it far better. And I think it works way better with the Democrats.
If you can get a Democrat that behaves in such a way.
Rolling
and we'll.
So.
Oh, that was Joe Manchin that we were.
We had. I think we were just ending, kind of talking about the Joe Manchin thing and things of that nature, and then the battery died, which was pretty funny. I think we had 15-ish minutes we didn't get, which was damn good 15 minutes. To sum it up, and you'll never see it.
Well, it's
actually.
I mean, but we don't have the audio. I mean, we'll have the distant audio that camera picked up.
Yeah. We basically were talking about that the answer for the Democrats is being strong.
Yeah.
And confident.
Right.
And don't be scared of being strong and confident.
Right. So, yeah, just to bring home the point then, right, I'll just say the thing that I said and you can wrap it up, though. It's that acknowledgement and understanding that the Democratic Party in politics in this modern day and age, we face this huge group of narcissists that are playing an entirely different game. They don't have a problem lying and manipulating and doing whatever that they have to do, and they get on board with each other. And you had explained that the only way that you can ever defeat something like that is with more strength as well.
Genuine, honest strength.
Genuine
And that a narcissist
confidence, strength.
cripples in the face of real confidence and real strength.
So the future of the party, the future of the political life of the Dems is going to have to require some piece of some strength.
You could have a perfect platform, but if you have just a bad communicator, it still will be really difficult to win. Or you won't have the win you could have.
Yeah.
You could have more seats in Congress, for example. Just wielding strength and confidence and demonstrating that to the people in leadership. Don't ticky-tack what your beliefs are. Just come out and say, you'd be like, God damn it, this is what I believe in. Let's go get them.
Right.
And then everyone's like, yeah, you're right.
I'm on board with it.
Yeah.
I feel it. I want to be a part of it.
Yep.
In fact, I think that the voters, they want to feel like they're a part of, the winning team.
More than a person, like a movement even. Really.
Yeah. An idea larger than a man. Right. So I think that needs to be the future. It will.
I think it's scary right now, probably. Like I said, the playbook we just played is a complete failure.
Yeah.
So it seems like we have no answer. There's an answer, and it's relatively simple. If I had to write it down on a piece of paper, it'd be like one side. Pretty much, you know what I mean?
Right.
It'd be pretty simple to understand. It's just getting someone who can do it and getting the party behind them, I think, is the battle.
For sure. A platform that we all believe in.
And getting someone to be strong.
And then whoever kind of takes the baton and runs with it, right, they have to be somebody that's got the strength and they're able to have the resilience, have the discipline, have what it takes, have the
will,
guts,
have the will to
the guts to take
the fight to them and get stuff done.
There you go.
But it's very doable. It's a relatively simple plan, which is good news. It's just finding someone who can do it. And then getting people who are scared of doing that to either be gone or to get on board and do it.
For sure. I mean, and they're out there.
Yeah, they're out there. There's several thousands of those people who could be that candidate.
Yeah, there are some people.
Like, it's not just one fellow we got to find.
Right. Yeah.
There's probably a few hundred or at least a few thousand in like every state.
Yeah.
They are around.
I think there's only one person I can think of that's in the list of sort of mainstream Democrats. Oh, by the way, I did notice that AOC
got some real tension.
Yeah, there was a little bit of love. Like, is AOC going to be a choice?
That was coming from a
president?
Republican insider.
Oh, that's interesting.
Telling other Republicans, y'all can trash her, but don't ignore her. Like, she's a real threat.
There, see?
Like, if the Republicans are worried, you're doing the right thing.
That's what I'm saying.
If their insiders and their powerful people are scared of you, you need to do more of whatever you're doing.
You got to, elevate that.
Yeah.
You've got to push that. You have to really, really kind of grab that ball and run with it.
Yeah. They weren't scared of Biden, but they're scared of AOC. They don't fear the current president,
right?
Most powerful person on the planet.
Yes.
They're afraid of a congresswoman from the Bronx who doesn't even have that much power in Congress. And they're more scared of her than the president.
I mean,
so that doesn't tell you something.
If that doesn't tell you something, yeah, that's exactly right. If that doesn't tell you something, then I don't know.
Then you don't need to be advising people. Basically, is my kind of sum up. Like, if that doesn't speak anything to you, don't be a part of a campaign.
I wonder if AOC will be the one who we're talking about, or if there'll be somebody else who's able to
there's
I mean obviously she's been in the game, she's already got a huge
I actually want to see who's in the progressive caucus.
Who else
is in the progressive caucus? I want to see who's in there, and I want to see all of them talk. There's a guy from Texas I told you about.
Yeah, we need to
Greg, he's pretty good.
A few of those. Yeah, we need to find a few of those people. All right, interesting.
They're around. So it's just, will the party do it?
Or
as I think probably the biggest battle. In all honesty, it's not finding them. It's not, I don't think, getting them to have a movement that people believe in. Just take a part of what Bernie had, and then you already have a big thing going. It's, will you not get rat fucked like Bernie did? I truly think that's the biggest battle.
Yes.
Because if you win the nomination and you've beaten the Democrat Party
Yeah.
Like the insider's the institution.
Yes.
And you are like a populist, kind of like we've been talking about, then
Right.
I think you're basically a lock.
I feel like you'd be a lock to win the whole thing.
Yeah,
if you
like,
can get through the
The
Democratic.
primary is the general.
Yeah.
Like in a sports thing, like the Super Bowl isn't the two best teams.
It's kind of like whoever wins in the SEC.
Yeah, whoever wins the SEC championship game, or whoever's the last SEC team,
Yeah.
that's
Yep.
the national championship.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when Georgia blasted TCU, it was like Georgia Alabama was the national championship game. So I think if you can come out of the primary victorious as that, you've won. I think you've all but won,
Mm-hmm.
unless they have someone more generational than Trump. Would be the only possibility.
I'm just going to throw this out there that we have 3 years before the next kind of election kind of, begins, I guess, or whatever, roughly. I'm just going to pose almost a rhetorical question, and we'll, I think, answer this as we go along in the coming years, is a la Trump in 2016, who was total
I watched some of his debates in the primaries.
Republican outsider.
Whoa.
Yeah.
He was a different man. He did the populist thing. He was going after
very much
Bush,
so.
and he was like, the people booing in the crowd are his donors who run politics. And I'm like, Democrats.
I know. So that's what I'm.
Within a month, he took over the Republicans.
Got it.
Good
So
God.
I know. So here's my question: is the progressive populist path something like Trump 2016, where
But just mirrored
you don't
to be progressive.
right? I mean, you don't have a problem to say on a debate stage in the primary.
Like
Of course, Buttigieg is going to say that. He's been plugged in all along. Now, honestly, I think that he's a good guy, and I think he really does want good things.
Yeah, I think
so,
Buttigieg's a good person. But
it's hard to attack somebody like him. Newsom would be a better example.
He's a coastal elite, and if he's getting all these billionaire donors, and he doesn't care about the people. He doesn't know you.
So,
Like-
let's use Newsom, because he's going to run.
Oh, he's the punching bag.
So let's use Newsom as the punching bag for the person. He's going to be the Jeb Bush.
Yeah, he's our Joker. If you can beat the machine that we put behind him, you've won.
All right.
So we'll wrap it up there.
Yeah, he's going to be he's got a target on his back.
It's huge.
A political target on his back about the
There was an
primary
assassination
race.
the other day.
So
Let's-
not
YouTube,
target.
don't cancel us, YouTube.
Not target. You know what I'm saying.
Well, I don't know. So we'll make sure our battery doesn't die next week.
Yep, we'll sign off and we'll be better
We'll
equipped.
we'll have a car battery plugged into the camera. So we'll wrap up. We'll see y'all next week. Yeah, that's funny.